The Pittsburgh Steelers really have one of the scariest offenses on paper in the NFL. So, it all starts off with the rookie players from last year heading into their sophomore season, taking another leap on the football field, and even guys from a few years ago, like Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth, and others, taking another leap as well this season. But like I said, it starts off with the sophomore players. For example, quarterback Kenny Pickett. The quarterback is what determines the offense and what makes the offense great. Yes, you could have a run game, but it all depends on the quarterback stepping up and taking another leap. And even though he didn't perform very well for his first season based on numbers, he did really struggle early half of the season, but the second half he really started to pick it up and get going and get used to the NFL. It takes time for a quarterback, especially one who was drafted in the 20s, to really get used to the NFL, especially being behind Mitch Trubisky to start the year and he started on the bench. It gets time to get used to the NFL, get used to the system, and get used to the NFL players, the athletes that are in the NFL on defense. They're much more different and much more bigger than the defenses in college, so he's still getting used to the next level, and now this season, he has a chance to take another leap. And if he does take that leap, the Pittsburgh Steelers offense could be dynamic. And like I said, it also depends on George Pickens as well. Because yes, Deontay Johnson is our number one wide receiver right now, but if we want the number one wide receiver to be dynamic, you need George Pickens to step up. And that depends on his route running. He needs to get better at that, but he's just a fantastic wide receiver outside of route running. His catching and his hands are really one of the best in the league at such a young age. He seems like he makes every catch that goes his way, whether it's out of his reach, whether it's not out of his reach. He makes basically every catch. I only remember one game where he was really dropping so many balls, but other than that one game, he really didn't drop anything outside of his range, unless it was a bad throw. So, George Pickens, if he takes another leap, the Pittsburgh Steelers offense having a 1-2 punch with Kenny Pickett and George Pickens will be dynamic. And now, going on to the run game, because that's where the Steelers are really building this offseason. Yes, I'll get more into Dionte Johnson, Allen Robinson, and Calvin Austin coming back. But let's just talk about the running game now, because the running game is what really matters for the Steelers. That's how their whole offense was built this offseason, from free agency to the draft. It was built to get Najee Harris going, and the Steelers rebuilt their whole offensive line, adding Broderick Jones to left tackle, Isaac Seumalo to left guard, center to Mason Cole, right guard James Daniels, right tackle Chunks Okorafor. They're building around Najee Harris and getting him going. And Najee Harris, his first 2 years, he led the league in basically yards after contact, meaning that he gets contacted right at the line of scrimmage and he needs to make stuff happen. It seems like whenever he runs the ball, it was always getting stuffed in the backfield. But now giving him the opportunity to not have to get touched in the backfield and have open holes by adding these great offensive linemen and making it a focus point to run the ball and having guys up front who could do that, and that's what their main thing is, to run the ball and run offense. That would be huge for Najee Harris and just the offense in general. And then that all leads back into quarterback Kenny Pickett. Because if you get the run game going, and which they want to make a point of, you get quarterback Kenny Pickett more opportunities to throw off of play action, which he's really good at, and just have more opportunities with a more loaded box and having guys one-on-one and making the reads. If you have to play in prevent defense and you're seeing guys double covered or guys who are in cover two, it's harder to throw the ball. But if you get the run game going, which the Steelers offense is now built to do, now their offense can really get going. And even the tight ends on their team. The Steelers added multiple tight ends to their roster that could help them run the football. For example, Darnell Washington is basically like a 6 offense line, and that's what Omar Khan mentioned in the press conference after when they're talking about Darnell Washington, how good he is at blocking. But not just that, how good he is at receiving the ball as well. Adding a 1-2 punch with Pat Freiermuth, that offense is unique. Which offenses in the NFL are you seeing that have 2 tight ends and even 3 that are really productive and can make plays on the field, both run blocking and pass blocking? Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington is really a unique tight end group and one of the best in the league. So that leads me all back to the wide receivers as well. I already mentioned George Pickens, but Dionte Johnson, they really have a unique group there as well. They have George Pickens, which is a big wide receiver to make contested catches. They have Allen Robinson, who they brought in on a trade with the Rams, who is a big guy to make contested catches. They're not really run after the yard type of guys, but they have now guys in Dionte Johnson to complement them because Dionte Johnson is more of a shifty wide receiver, a route running. So they have two contested catch wide receiver guys, and then they have a route runner in Dionte Johnson, a shifty guy in Kelvin Austin, a speed guy in Kelvin Austin. So that kind of complements the group. That's two guys who are speed guys and route runners, and then two guys who are contested catch guys. So the Pittsburgh Steelers' offense is really unique because they have all these guys to complement each other, and their depth in every area has gotten so much better. For example, Kevin Dotson and Dan Moore, they were starters a year ago, but now they're coming in and they're going to be a backup this season. And even Nate Herbig, guy who was a starter with the New York Jets, he's going to be coming in, who was a starter with the Jets, and now he's going to be a backup. So the Pittsburgh Steelers offense is really one of the scariest because when you look at it, they have so many guys who complement each other and so many guys who have a chance to get better. And that I didn't even mention Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren is a guy who were one of the best 1-2 punches at running back last season. Who would have thought a guy who's undrafted free agent coming in would have had such a big impact on the team? But some would have even argued that earlier on, Jaylen Warren was a guy who was having much more of an impact on the run offense than Najee Harris was, because Najee Harris was still dealing with his injury, and he still ended up with over 1,000 yards for the second consecutive season to start his career. But Jaylen Warren had such a big impact both in pass protection, that's where he really stood out to get more playing time, pass protection, to even catching the ball and running the ball. He was a guy who has such a big impact. So the Steelers have a 1-2 punch at running back. They have a 1-2 punch, 1-2-3-4 punch at wide receiver, a 1-2 punch at tight end, and obviously, like I said, they rebuilt their whole offense line. So it all really depends if people are going to take the next step. Because on paper, this team is really dynamic and can do so much things. If they want, they can run the ball 3 consecutive plays and hopefully can control the game. And they could come out on big personnel. They could come out with extra offense linemen now because they have so much depth in that area. And they could have starters like Kevin Dotson, Dan Moore Jr. on the field and come out on big personnel. Even Darnell Washington come out with an extra tight end and run the ball consecutively. But if they want, they could also come in with a 5-wide set and have guys who could play wide receiver, guys who could really catch the ball, and guys who could create separation on their routes and make a big play down the field. They have so many unique things they could do in this offense, and now it really depends on quarterback Kenny Pickett. Will he take the next step? It all depends on Matt Canada. Will he be better at play calling for the Steelers this season? Because if he is, if quarterback Kenny Pickett's better, and if everyone takes the leap that they're expected to make in the second season, which usually you expect from second year guys to take another leap because now they're used to the NFL and they have a whole season to train. If they take all that leap, the Pittsburgh Steelers offense expect great things from them, especially on paper as one of the best in the NFL. You might not think of the Steelers offense as great because they don't have guys like Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, Joe Burrow at quarterback, Jalen Hurts. If they had one of these guys, the Steelers offense would automatically be top 5. But because they don't have one of these guys and they still have Kenny Pickett still to prove himself, the Steelers offense rarely gets talked about as one of the best in the NFL. But other than that, if Kenny Pickett takes the next leap, the Pittsburgh Steelers offense is dynamic. So with that being said, this is why the Pittsburgh Steelers offense is one of the scariest in the NFL. So let me know down in the comments below. How do you feel about the Pittsburgh Steelers this season, and specifically the offense? Yes, I'll get more into the defense in different videos, but this video is specifically about the offense and how I believe they're one of the best in the NFL. And do you believe that all these guys I mentioned, like Kenny Pickett, George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, Najee Harris, do you think they're going to take the next step to the next level and upgrade their game in this offseason and get better for the Steelers? Do you think the Pittsburgh Steelers offense has a chance to be one of the top 5 in the NFL? Do you think it all depends on Matt Canada or Kenny Pickett? Let me know down in the comments below. And also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well if the Steelers content analysis reports. Like the video, turn on post notifications down below for this channel as well so you get notified whenever I post next Steelers video. I've been covering all of free agency, I covered all the draft, and now rookie minicamp is underway. The first 2 days are basically already over for the Steelers rookie minicamp, and every news, every rumor heading into training camp, OTAs, everything like that. Just know I'm covering it, and even more people the Steelers sign, because I'm sure they're gonna have to sign more guys, especially for the nickel cornerback and everyone who gets cut from the roster and the Pittsburgh Steelers add on to the team. Just know I'm covering it. So like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys all later. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.